Kia ora, Chris from NEWA with this weekend weather update. Let's get to the maps and show you what to expect this last weekend of summer. Holy smokes, where's time gone? Yeah, because the following weekend, it's March 1st. Next Saturday, the following Saturday, 1st of March. So, what to expect weather-wise? Well, here we are, Friday evening, just after 5, early in the evening, late afternoon, whatever you want to call it. You can see high pressure over the central and western Tasman Sea. There'll be a few showers across the North Island. Let's have a quick look, a quick squiz. You can see a few late afternoon, early evening showers toward Wellington, Kapiti Coast, maybe parts of the Kapiti Coast, Wairarapa, also over toward Hawke's Bay, the Central Plateau, maybe the odd spit of rain over toward the Auckland area, Coromandel. But look, this is moving through, just passing through, because as we put this into motion, watch how the showers quickly go away. By 8, 9 o'clock, the showers are pretty much gone, with the exception of maybe coastal Wairarapa and parts of Hawke's Bay. These are light showers, generally speaking. The rest of the North Island looking dry. So it looks to be a good evening for the most part. If it is date night or maybe just going out with the friends, either way you slice it, looks pretty darn good. South Island, or Friday evening, probably some showers in Invercargill way and maybe toward Gore and certainly over toward Fiordland. So, yeah, that will be one place where showers will be around Friday evening. As we jump ahead to Saturday, it's centering our view, what to expect during the day on Saturday. Well, zooming out, there's the high to our west, and that will be driving west to southwest winds. So you can see these winds will be a little bit gusty on Saturday, particularly over coastal Southland and perhaps over toward, I suppose, Taranaki, a little bit of a gusty breeze. Maybe the west coast of the North Island over toward Auckland. This is Saturday afternoon, just jumping around here with our wind gust, maybe spinning things around, the wrong way a little bit here. So a bit of a gusty southwest wind, 40, 50K. You see the gold coloring? That's 50K wind gust, and there'll be some pockets of that. I wouldn't call it a windy day, but look, it's not going to be that warm. We'll show you temperatures in a moment. So you combine this with a bit of a breeze. It may have an early autumn feel, just perhaps, and a little bit of a breeze over toward the South Island. But again, we're not talking extravagant wind. The one area where the wind will probably be most, impactful will be over Southland and perhaps lower and interior portions of Otago, where you see this widespread gold coloring. Those are winds gusting in excess of 50K. In fact, let's just do a bit of a travel here. You can see gusts make it up to 60 or 70K. So I'll call that breezy. Maybe even a little bit of a windy day for the lower part of the South Island. So that's Saturday. Okay, can we keep it dry on Saturday? I think we can. There will be a few showers, especially Saturday morning in Invercargill, maybe a spit of rain or 3 toward Dunners sometime in the afternoon hours. I wouldn't call it a deal breaker, but look, an odd shower or 3 in Dunedin or around Dunedin in the afternoon Saturday, I wouldn't rule it out. Let's go to the North Island. I think this is where chiefly dry weather is expected across the North Island. Spinning our view around just a little bit, you can see nice day. Not much in the way of cloud. Dry. Looks good. We talked about the breeze. Let's talk about temperature. And let's clear that data off and give us an idea of what to expect with temperatures during the day. We move things into, let's see, Saturday. Let's stop it mid-afternoon, 3:30 or thereabouts. Look, we'll be in the mid-20s. So temperatures will be, seasonable for the time of year. Maybe a little bit cool for areas with a gusty breeze. So you can see a lot of places in the low, perhaps mid-20s. That's a good executive summary for the North Island. And for the South Island, a bit more variability. You can see what's quite interesting, places like Invercargill and places across the Deep South and Southland. Maximum temperatures probably around 15 to 17 degrees, so middle, maybe high teens for a few folks. Over toward the interior portions of Otago, particularly in the valleys, we'll see temperatures warmer in the lower 20s, and interior portions of Canterbury could see temperatures inland of Kaikoura, north of Christchurch, around 23 or 24 degrees during the day on Saturday for maximums. And for the West Coast, we can't ignore you guys. You guys have had a terrific summer. A bit dry, but certainly warm and from a holiday perspective, pretty darn nice. Upper teens, a few spots may just tickle 20 for a maximum during the day on Saturday. One piece of good news, it should be a relatively dry day in terms of humidity, relatively low humidity values. We're looking at dew point temperatures. Again, dew point temperature, okay, it's the temperature that dew forms, but we can use it as a guide to understand, is it humid, is it sticky, or is the air kind of comfortable? And 15, 16, that's kind of the magic number. It is subjective, so you could start a healthy debate over this, but for the most part, when it's below 15, 16 degrees, most people will not be noticing the humidity, really a non-factor. So some good news there. So Saturday looks sweet. I should mention water temperatures if you want to hit the beach this weekend. Let's clear that off. Saturday, maybe not the best day for the beach because there will be a healthy breeze. Not an awful day, but the West Coast beaches for the Auckland area and Waikato, a little bit of a healthy breeze. Onshore surfers, so you want to go to the East Coast if you want to get the surf in. And water temperatures pretty much reaching their peak temperature for this time of the year. Typically, it's in February. We see ocean temperatures reach their maximum, their apex, and we're talking low 20s, 21, 22, a few spots maybe grazing 23. That's across the Bay of Plenty, Coromandel, Auckland, Northland, Waikato coastline. You get farther south toward Wellington, the Cook Strait, more like upper teens. And West Coast, pretty warm water. This is unusually warm. Lower 20s off the west coast of the South Island, basically north of Hokitika, and across the eastern coast of the South Island, Christchurch, down toward Dunners, probably a wetsuit, 17-degree water temperatures or thereabouts. Sunday itself looks pretty good. Let's go back to the weather maps. So Sunday, let's back it up just a skosh. This is middle morning, say 9:30 or 10 o'clock, thereabouts. High pressure will be over the central Tasman Sea, still dealing with a bit of a southwest flow of air on Sunday, but it should be a relaxed gradient, meaning there's not a big change in air pressure over distance. The highs are getting closer, and that means we're seeing more in the way of settled weather, but still a little bit of a breeze I could see during the day, particularly west coast areas of both islands. But it'll be a south to southwest wind. It looks to be a dry day. Very little to be seen on the map. Maybe the odd spit of rain toward, I suppose, Dunedin, eastern Otago Sunday morning. But boy, it's slim pickings in the rain. That's part of the problem, which we'll talk about with the New Zealand Drought Index momentarily. And temperatures look to be pretty good. Let's start with the North Island for maximums going back Sunday afternoon. Will be a little bit cooler potentially, low, maybe mid-20s. Warmest temperatures toward Hawke's Bay. With that south to southwest wind, let's pop it on the map once again. That means the warmest temperatures are likely to be on the eastern side of the island because of that downslope wind coming off the central part of the island where there are some elevated terrain, where there is elevated terrain. So, yeah, mid-20s perhaps. Could be a seasonably warm day for Hawke's Bay. Parts of the Northland region probably low, maybe mid-20s, and lower 20s for the Auckland area. And the Manawatu, Wanganui region, low, perhaps mid-20s. For the South Island, looking, again, pretty darn nice. A little bit cooler. Temperatures around or just above 20, lower 20s, let's say Christchurch and northern suburbs and interior pockets of the South Island. Maybe toward interior Otago or the foothills or interior southwestern part of Canterbury could be in the lower 20s. Nelson looks to be a warm day, could be 23 degrees or so for a maximum on Sunday. And just a quick squeeze into the new week as we go back to work and school on Monday. What to expect? Well, generally settled weather. Let's put this into motion. So Monday morning, high pressure moves overhead. A bit of a front over toward Fiordland. Highs like so, right? There's our high. So we get a return flow. That's what we call it in the weather biz. A return flow on the back side of the high. So there's our airflow. Yep, north to northwest winds. And that'll bring some rain into the western lower part of the South Island, which they could use the rain. It is dry there. But look, this high is going to really prevent anything from moving north in terms of that front. There could be a spit of rain perhaps Tuesday across the Bay of Plenty, Auckland area because of our onshore flow. But this front right here, part of the grammar, it ain't going anywhere. It's not moving that far north. We will get some beneficial rain potentially for the lower and western part of the South Island, but that is about it. And just quick before I move on, temperatures are likely to be pretty darn warm on Monday and Tuesday. Ahead of that front, the gradient does increase. So look, we're seeing 27 degrees or so at 28. There it is, 28. So in the global model showing 27, 28 degrees, as we talked about before, there's a pretty good chance we're going to be flirting, if not hitting 30 degrees for some areas on Tuesday, particularly Hawke's Bay, and even parts of Northland and Auckland, well into the middle 20s, 24, 25, 26 degrees. Very possible, if not likely. Marlborough in the upper 20s, maybe nearing 30 on, this is Tuesday, I beg your pardon if I did say Monday. And again, over toward Christchurch, upper 20s likely on Tuesday. And just to go, well, I'm going to go in reverse order here. On Monday, another warm day too, but not quite as warm. Those same areas that were in the middle and upper 20s, more like probably low to mid 20s. So it will warm up early next week as that front approaches, as we count down the last few days of summer. Really quick, I do want to touch on the rain situation or lack thereof. So what we're going to do, we're going to share our New Zealand Drought Index. It's not looking pretty. There continues to be dryness across the South and North Island. Let's start with the South Island. Where you see the yellow, that is dry. Where you see that kind of golden color, that is very dry. And that's quite evident. Buller, Westport, and right the way down the west coast of the South Island, much of Fiordland, much of Queenstown, Lakes District, looking pretty dry as well. For the North Island, it's actually worse. Dryness to some extent right the way through. It's dry in Wellington, but you don't have to go too far north toward Palmerston North. It becomes very dry. And once you get into the Waikato and, I guess, northern portions of the Manawatu, we get into extremely dry conditions. Then this red here that I'm circling, that is meteorological drought. And that's been there for several days, couple weeks now. That's going to get worse. Unfortunately, dryness is going to expand and intensify. There's just not going to be a lot of rain over the next several days, multiple weeks, and we are still losing a fair amount of moisture to the atmosphere, 4 or 5, sometimes close to 6 millimeters per day. And look, you do the simple math. Take 10 days, right? And if you're losing 4 or 5 millimeters a day, that's 40 to 50 millimeters of moisture you got to replenish just to break even. And that's not going to happen. Simple as that. So my expectation is that as we work our way toward the first couple days of March, and we're showing this map, unfortunately, there will be a lot more color, and that color is probably going to be more of a warm color. So we're talking, unfortunately, more of these extremely dry conditions and probably drought expanding in terms of meteorological drought. So just keep that in mind if you're on tank water. Obviously, if you are a farmer or you're basically relying on regular water for your way of life, things are not going to get any better over the next couple of weeks. In fact, they're very likely to get worse. And we know that because we can look at the basically, where's our rainfall anomaly map? Not that. Let's go to here. There we go. So a national perspective, what can we expect for rainfall the next 5 weeks? Well, as we end the month of February and start the month of March, nearly the entire country is in deep brown. That is well below normal. The exception looks to be over toward Fiordland. Remember that front I showed you? Well, it's because that's why we're seeing some very light shades of green and at least some neutral colors, which is normal rainfall, which indicates, well, they'll get some rain. But other than that, very little rain is expected for much of the country. Then we go to the 3rd to the 9th of March. You can see Taranaki, much of the northern and western part of the South Island expected to see below normal rainfall. Much of the upper North Island, below normal rainfall. Parts of the eastern North and South Island may see some rain. So there are signals for rain, particularly eastern parts of the South Island. That may change. I will check back. You can go to type in NIWA 35 into Uncle Google, and you'll be directed to these forecasts. They won't look like this, but they'll be the same idea. They'll look a little bit different, but they're updated each afternoon. So a good way to understand theme, not a weather forecast. This is a theme forecast. And then that middle part of March, we go back to brown. It stays brown, actually. So the expectation is that the dryness that we're seeing across the country is likely to expand and intensify. One last note, and I'll use our ensemble model data just to kind of articulate this. So we'll do 25. So look, I'll just look at Monday. So this is Monday, odds for 25 Celsius. And look, the purpose of this is, I can show you where the warmest temperatures are likely by way of the odds for more than 25 C, right? What will likely happen, this is through research, is that when you get these really dry conditions like I've just showed you, during the back half of summer into early autumn, that tends to feed back into the temperature. So we tend to have higher temperatures with a very dry ground versus, say, the same kind of atmosphere and the ground is not so dry. It's neutral or wet, certainly. So I wouldn't be surprised if temperatures trend warmer just because as we work through time, the ground continues to dry. And sometimes the modeling doesn't really capture that all, very well or perfectly. So I guess this is another way of saying that with that dryness, there will be some periods of very warm temperatures, it looks like, next week, that final week of February. So that's it for me. Enjoy the last weekend of summer. Be smart if you're going to be camping. Mind the restrictions, the fire restriction. Check it's all right before you light. Just putting on our fire and emergency hat, because with these dry conditions around, just going and ending things on the New Zealand Drought Index, with these dry conditions around and any kind of wind, things can get out of control really fast. So you do want to mind that and respect any laws or restrictions that may exist. We'll see you next time. I'm NEWA forecaster Chris Brandolino. Namahi Nui.